A Slice of Trouble. Chapter 26, Maine. The evening had quieted into itself. The plates had been cleared. The charges filed, Topher recovering, Blanchette home with two kittens named Julia and Ramsey. Ron had the medallion assessment in hand and the court process moving, and, as of that afternoon, a formal refund commitment from the auction house, who were pursuing Jill Sanger's assets and her insurer with what Ron described as considerable enthusiasm. He would get his money back. It would take time, but he would get it back. The 18 days that had started with a man on a bakery floor had arrived, somehow, at this, their usual table, their usual drinks, the particular warmth of people who had come through something together and were still here. Mary looked at her glass. 3 weeks. It felt longer. It also felt, from this distance, like something that had happened to other people in another season. Not because it wasn't real, it was entirely real, and Topher's face when he'd thanked them would stay with her for a long time, but because the Green Marlin was the Green Marlin, and the October evening was warm, and they were all still here, which was the thing that mattered most. She was grateful for that in a way she didn't quite have words for. It happened over dessert. Nancy had ordered the key lime pie, she always ordered the key lime pie, and was halfway through it when her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it the way she glanced at everything. Quickly. Efficiently. Ready to dismiss it. She didn't dismiss it. She picked it up. Read it. Put it down. Picked it up again. Mary watched this. What? Nancy looked at her phone. Then at Mary. Then at Carol. Then at Ron and Natalie. I won, she said. Mary frowned. Won what? Nancy turned the phone around. The email was from a travel sweepstakes company. The subject line read, "Congratulations, you're going to Maine." The table went quiet. Mary stared at the phone. Then she looked at Nancy. Then she looked at Carol. Then, somewhere in the back of her mind, something small and specific surfaced. A Thursday evening at this very table, 3 weeks ago, Nancy pulling out her phone and saying it takes 4 minutes, and Carol saying she wasn't driving today, and all of them entering something they'd already forgotten before the appetizers arrived. Carol's expression had not changed. "You entered all of us," Nancy said. "I suspected you would too," Carol said. "You were very persuasive. I told you it takes 4 minutes. It took 4 minutes, Carol said. And apparently it worked. Nancy looked at the email again. 7 nights, she said. Coastal Maine. A lighthouse inn. She scrolled. Bar Harbor. Acadia National Park. She looked up. There are kayaks. You don't kayak, Mary said. I could learn, Nancy said. Ron leaned forward. When? Nancy scrolled further. They want me to travel within 6 months. She looked at the table. Which means? Spring, Mary said. Spring in Maine, Carol said. A moment settled over the table. Not just any moment. The particular kind that happened when something arrived unexpectedly and turned out to be exactly right. Nancy set the phone down. It's for 2, she said. Mary looked at her. The prize, Nancy said. It's for 2 people. She paused. But I entered all 3 of our emails. The odds were better with more entries. You entered all of us, Mary said. Yes, Nancy said. And you won. Yes. So technically it's your prize. Technically, Nancy said. A beat. We're all going, Nancy said. Obviously. I'll cover the 3rd ticket. That's not a discussion. Mary looked at Carol. Carol's expression was entirely unsurprised. You knew, Nancy said. I suspected, Carol said. You were always going to do it this way. We're a unit, Nancy said simply. That's how it works. Natalie looked at Ron. Ron looked at Natalie. She's right, Natalie said. She usually is, Ron said. Mary smiled. Maine, she said. Maine, Nancy confirmed. All 3 of us. Lighthouses. Lobster. Wildflowers on the coast if we time it right. She set her fork down. She picked up her phone. Give me 30 seconds, she said. The table waited. Nancy scrolled. Read. Scrolled again. The West Quoddy Head Lighthouse, she said. Easternmost point in the United States. Red and white candy stripes. Built in 1808. She set the phone down with the satisfaction of someone who had just confirmed something worth confirming. We're going. Mary smiled. We're going, she agreed. Carol's hands were still on her cane. I've been reading about the Maine coast, she said. The soundscape is extraordinary. The fog. The bell buoys. Of course you have, Nancy said. Ron looked at his glass. To Maine, they said. And drank. Marcy appeared from nowhere with a small plate of something chocolate she set in the center of the table without comment. "Celebrating?" she said. "Going on a trip," Mary said. "Somewhere good?" "Maine," Nancy said. Marcy considered this. "Cold." "Eventually," Nancy said. Marcy shook her head with the affection of someone who had watched these three women for long enough to find them consistently surprising. "You all need anything else?" "No," Mary said. "I think we have everything we need." Marcy moved on. The table sat together in the warm October evening, the green marlin moving around them, the night air drifting in through the open door, the season turning toward whatever came next. Mary thought about lighthouses built to warn people away from what looked like open water. She thought about small things that mattered. About filing things away without knowing why. About sitting at a table with people you trusted completely and going wherever the next thing took you. She reached for her glass. The ice had almost melted, her vodka tonic warm now, the lime a little tired, the tall glass sweating in the October heat. She drank it anyway. It tasted exactly right. She thought about the sweepstakes entered at this very table, at this very chair, on a Thursday evening when Nancy said it took 4 minutes and none of them had been paying attention. Small things mattered. Carol had been saying that all along. She was right. End of A Slice of Trouble. The Green Marlin Gals return in A Lobster Tale. A note before you go. If the Green Marlin Gals made you smile, kept you guessing, or made you want to croissant at an unreasonable hour, I'd love to hear about it. Reader reviews are how books like this find their way to the next reader. Even a sentence or two makes a real difference, and I read every one. If you enjoyed A Slice of Trouble, please consider leaving a review on Amazon or Goodreads. It doesn't have to be long. Just honest. Thank you for spending time in Vero Beach with Mary, Nancy, and Carol. I'm grateful you were there. CZ Kincaid. www.24thero.com. A note from the author. A Slice of Trouble began, like most stories do, with a place. A Slice of Paris is a real bakery in Vero Beach, and anyone who has been there will recognize it immediately, the kind of small, warm, particular place that a town builds its mornings around. A place where people slow down. Where time behaves a little better than it does outside. The bakery in these pages is fictionalized, the characters, the events, and the pastries used for criminal purposes are entirely invented, but the feeling of it is real, and I hope the real A Slice of Paris will forgive me for borrowing it. M Bakery, Topher Grant's Bakery on 6th Avenue, is likewise inspired by a real Vero Beach establishment, rendered here in fiction. I am grateful to both for existing. Vero Beach is home. The Green Marlin, McKee Botanical Garden, Indian River Drive, the stretch of coastline that has been giving people reasons to stay for 100 years, these are real places, rendered here with as much affection as fiction allows. The 1715 plate fleet really did go down off this coast, and treasure hunters really do still find pieces of it. Ron's fascination is not invented. Mary, Nancy, and Carol came to me as a group before they came to me as individuals. The three of them together, the way they argue without fighting, watch out for each other without hovering, solve problems through stubbornness and loyalty and a shared refusal to look away, felt true from the beginning. Writing Carol's experience of the world, and the White Cane Awareness Day walk, required research and care. I am grateful to the organizations and individuals who do this work, and I hope it is rendered here with the respect it deserves. The poisonous plants are real. Please do not use them. A Slice of Trouble is the second book in the Green Marlin Gals series. The first is The Mountain Gods. The third, A Lobster Tale, takes the gals to coastal Maine, because Nancy won a sweepstakes, and Carol always knew she would. CZ Kincaid. Vero Beach, Florida. Discussion questions. For book clubs and reading groups. These questions contain spoilers and are best read after finishing the novel. 1. The novel opens with a small, ordinary morning at A Slice of Paris, friends saying goodbye, a bakery cat, an elderly couple debating the last pastry. What details in that opening scene feel significant in hindsight? Did anything catch your attention before Topher collapsed? 2. Mary, Nancy, and Carol each have a distinct way of paying attention to the world. How would you describe each woman's particular kind of noticing? Whose perspective do you find yourself most aligned with, and why? 3. Carol experiences Vero Beach through sound, rhythm, and spatial memory rather than sight. How does the author convey her experience of the world? Were there moments where Carol's way of perceiving gave her, or the reader, an advantage the other characters didn't have? 4. The White Cane Awareness Day walk is a centerpiece of Carol's arc. What did you take away from David's explanation of what the cane does and doesn't do? Did your understanding of Carol's daily life shift over the course of the book? 5. Nancy notices Jill Sanger in Chapter 1 and files the observation away without mentioning it. Why do you think she does this? What does it reveal about how Nancy operates? How does this moment pay off later? 6. The Rosary P theory is logical, beautifully constructed, and completely wrong. How did you feel when it collapsed? What does the novel seem to be saying about the difference between a good theory and the truth? 7. Jill Sanger is calm, controlled, and oddly sympathetic even when the women are in her home. What did you make of her as a villain? Did the motive, a shipping error that led to a man's death over a replica artifact, feel satisfying, or did it leave you with complicated feelings? 8. Topher Grant is the victim, but we learn a great deal about him over the course of the investigation, including that a slice of Paris was the one place in town where no one wanted anything from him. How does the author develop him as a character despite his limited time on the page? 9. Blanchette is a red herring, but a richly drawn one. What did her storyline add to the novel beyond misdirection? What did her relationship with the gals reveal about their characters? 10. The setting of Vero Beach, the Botanical Garden, Indian River Drive, the auction in Jupiter, the familiar rhythms of a small Florida city in October, functions almost as a character itself. How did the sense of place affect your reading experience? 11. Ron's obsession with the 1715 plate fleet and the medallion turns out to be central to the plot, even though it begins as background texture. How does the novel use the idea of historical objects and their complicated ownership? 12. At the end of the novel, Nancy wins the sweepstakes, a detail that was seeded in Chapter 2 as a small, forgettable Thursday evening errand. How does the payoff of that detail affect the ending? What is the novel saying about small things mattering? 13. The Green Marlin gals operate outside the official investigation, sometimes in tension with Detective Reyes, sometimes in cooperation with him. What do you think about their methods? Were there moments where you felt they went too far, or not far enough? 14. The final image is Mary finishing a warm vodka tonic and deciding it tastes exactly right. What does that moment mean to you? What has changed for her by the end of the book? 15. The series is called The Green Marlin Gals, named for their irregular table at a Vero Beach waterfront bar. What does the Green Marlin represent in the novel beyond a setting? What does it mean that the story ends there? What's growing in your yard? A Guide to Common Toxic Plants. In A Slice of Trouble, a visit to McKee Botanical Gardens toxic plant tour turns out to be more than a pleasant morning outing. The plants in that tour are real, and many of them are growing in Florida yards and living rooms right now. This guide is offered in the spirit of that tour, not to alarm, but to inform. Oleander, Nerium oleander, the murder weapon in this novel, and one of the most commonly planted ornamentals in the American South. Oleander grows in every parking lot, along every median, in front of shopping centers and schools and hospitals. It is drought-tolerant, beautiful, and extremely toxic, every part of the plant, including the water in a vase. The cardiac glycosides in oleander can cause irregular heartbeat, nausea, and insufficient quantity, death. Smoke from burning oleander branches is also dangerous. If you have oleander in pets or small children, know what it is and where it is. Rosary P. Abras precatorius, the plant that sent our heroines down the wrong path, and one of the most dangerous on this list. The seeds of the Rosary P are bright red with a distinctive black tip, smooth and glossy, and have been used for centuries as decorative beads. The toxin they contain, abrain, is one of the most potent naturally occurring poisons known. A single seed, if the shell is broken or chewed, can be fatal to an adult. They grow wild in Florida and are often found in coastal areas. If you find them, do not handle them without gloves, and do not let children or animals near them. Dieffenbachia, Dieffenbachia spp. Known in the novel as dumb cane, and the name tells you what it does, the sap of the leaves causes severe swelling of the tongue and throat, temporarily preventing speech. It is also one of the most popular houseplants in North America, attractive, easy to grow, and widely available. Not typically fatal in adults, but extremely unpleasant and potentially dangerous for small children and pets. Keep it out of reach, and wash hands after handling. Sago palm, Cycas revoluta, one of the most dangerous plants for dogs and cats in Florida. Every part is toxic, but the seeds, which look like small, smooth nuts, are the most dangerous. Ingestion of even a single seed can cause liver failure in dogs. The sago palm is not a true palm, it is a cycad, and it is planted everywhere in Florida landscapes. If you have a dog, know whether you have sago palms in your yard. The ASPCA considers it one of the most toxic plants to pets. Lantana, Lantana calmera, a cheerful, Drought-tolerant flowering shrub beloved by butterflies and gardeners. The berries, especially unripe green ones, are toxic to humans and animals. Symptoms of lantana poisoning include nausea, vomiting, and in serious cases, liver damage. Children are drawn to the berries because of their resemblance to blueberries. A plant worth having, but worth knowing. Peace lily, Spathiphyllum spp. A common houseplant, popular for its tolerance of low light and its reputation as an air purifier. It contains calcium oxalate crystals that cause burning and irritation of the mouth and throat if ingested. Toxic to cats and dogs, symptoms include drooling, vomiting, and difficulty swallowing. Keep it on a high shelf. Caladium, Caladium spp. Prized for their spectacular patterned leaves, caladiums are a Florida garden staple. Like peace lilies, they contain calcium oxalate crystals and are toxic to humans and pets if ingested. The toxicity is rarely fatal in adults but is seriously unpleasant and dangerous for animals. Pothos and philodendron, Epipremnum aureum, philodendron spp. The most common houseplant poisoning exposures reported to poison centers in the United States, which tells you something about how many of them are sitting on windowsills and bookshelves right now. Both contain calcium oxalate crystals and cause immediate burning and irritation of the mouth and throat, drooling, nausea, and vomiting if chewed. Rarely serious in healthy adults, but genuinely unpleasant, and dangerous for cats, dogs, and small children. If you have pets or young children and a trailing green plant you've had for years without thinking much about it, it is probably one of these. Now you are thinking about it. Poinsettia, Euphorbia pilcarima included here because almost everyone has been told poinsettias are deadly, and almost everyone is wrong. They are mildly toxic, the milky sap can cause skin irritation, and ingestion may cause nausea and vomiting, but they are not the deadly holiday killer of legend. The myth likely grew from a single unverified case report from 1919. Poison centers consistently classify poinsettia exposures as low severity. You do not need to ban them from your home. You do not need to keep them away from your guests. You may, if you wish, stop worrying about this one. Lily of the Valley, Convallaria majalis, small, white, bell-shaped flowers on delicate arching stems, with a fragrance that has been used in perfumes and bridal bouquets for centuries. It grows wild across woodland floors in the northeastern United States, Maine especially, where it blooms in spring along shaded paths and coastal gardens. It is also genuinely dangerous. Like oleander, lily of the valley contains cardiac glycosides that affect the heart. Ingestion can cause irregular heartbeat, low blood pressure, confusion, and in serious cases, cardiac arrest. Every part of the plant is toxic, including the water in the vase. It looks innocent. It smells beautiful. It is neither. Azalea and rhododendron, Rhododendron spp. Beautiful, widely planted, and genuinely dangerous. The grayonotoxins in azaleas affect the heart and nervous system, and can cause low blood pressure, irregular heartbeat, and in serious cases, coma. Even honey made from azalea nectar, called mad honey, can cause illness. Toxic to dogs, cats, horses, and humans. For a full list of toxic plants for pets, the ASPCA Animal Poison Control Center maintains a comprehensive database at aspca.org/petcare/animal poison control. For human poisoning, contact Poison Control at 1-800-222-1222. Recipes from A Slice of Paris. The bakeries in this story are fictionalized. These recipes are real, or as close to real as a novelist can get without flour on their hands. The almond croissant is the most plot-significant pastry in the book, which makes it either a very good or a very bad recipe to serve at your book club, depending on your feelings about Topher Grant. Almond croissants. Day-old croissants soaked overnight in frangipane and baked again until the outside shatters. These are a classic French boulangerie trick for day-old croissants. The second bake transforms them into something richer and more complex than a fresh croissant. In the novel, they are described as dense and almost custardy inside, the outside shattered. That is exactly what these should be. Make 6. For the frangipane, almond cream. 115 grams, 1 stick, unsalted butter, softened. 100 grams, half cup, granulated sugar. 2 large eggs. 1 teaspoon pure almond extract. 115 grams, 1 1/4 cups, almond flour, finely ground blanched almonds, 2 tablespoons all-purpose flour. Pinch of salt. For assembly. 6 day-old croissants, slightly stale works best. 60 grams, 1/4 cup, sliced almonds. Powdered sugar for dusting. Simple syrup, optional but recommended. 60 milliliters, 1/4 cup, Water. 50 grams, 1/4 cup, sugar. 1 tablespoon amaretto or half a teaspoon almond extract. Make the frangipane. Beat the softened butter and sugar together until light and fluffy, about 3 minutes. Add the eggs one at a time, beating well after each addition. Add the almond extract. Fold in the almond flour, all-purpose flour, and salt until a smooth, thick cream forms. Refrigerate for 30 minutes if it feels too soft. Make the simple syrup, if using. Bring water and sugar to a simmer, stir until dissolved, add amaretto or almond extract, let cool. Assemble, preheat oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 175 degrees Celsius. Line a baking sheet with parchment. Slice each croissant in half horizontally. If using simple syrup, brush the cut sides lightly. Spread a generous tablespoon of frangipane on the bottom half. Replace the top. Spread another tablespoon of frangipane over the top of the croissant. Press sliced almonds firmly into the top layer. Bake 20 to 25 minutes until the frangipane is set and golden and the almonds are toasted. The croissant will darken, that is correct. Let cool for 10 minutes. Dust generously with powdered sugar. Best eaten the day they are made, still slightly warm. The inside will be dense and custardy, the top will shatter when you bite it. If yours do not shatter, add more frangipane next time. Guava and cream cheese pastries. Made with puff pastry, the ones people drive from Fort Pierce for. In the novel, an elderly woman at the window table says these taste just like the ones she used to get in Miami 40 years ago. Her husband steals the last piece before she can finish her sentence. These are made with store-bought puff pastry, which gives you a flaky, buttery shell that balances the sweet guava and tangy cream cheese perfectly. Makes 12. 1 sheet frozen puff pastry, thawed, approximately 9 by 9 inches when unfolded 170 grams, 6 ounces, cream cheese, softened. 3 tablespoons powdered sugar. Half a teaspoon vanilla extract. 1 teaspoon fresh lime juice. 170 grams, 6 ounces, guava paste, cut into 12 thin slices. 1 egg, beaten with 1 tablespoon water, egg wash powdered sugar for dusting. Prepare the filling, beat cream cheese, powdered sugar, vanilla, and lime juice together until smooth. Set aside. Assemble, preheat oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, 200 degrees Celsius. Line a baking sheet with parchment. On a lightly floured surface, unfold the puff pastry and cut into 12 equal rectangles. Score a border 1/4 inch from the edge of each rectangle, pressing lightly but not cutting all the way through. Spoon a generous teaspoon of cream cheese filling inside the border. Place a slice of guava paste on top. Brush the border with egg wash. Bake 15 to 18 minutes until puffed and deeply golden. The guava will soften and the cream cheese will set. Let cool 5 minutes before transferring. Dust lightly with powdered sugar. Guava paste is available at most Latin grocery stores and in the international aisle of many supermarkets. It comes in a block and slices cleanly. Do not substitute guava jam, it is too thin and will run. Queen Aman. Caramelized at the edges the way nothing else quite does. Queen Aman, pronounced Queen Aman, is a bread and pastry. The name means simply butter cake in Breton. It is made by folding sugar and butter into bread dough and baking it until the outside caramelizes and the inside stays soft and slightly chewy. This is not a beginner recipe, but it is not as difficult as it sounds, and nothing you will ever make will smell better coming out of the oven. Serves 8 to 10. For the dough: 300 grams, 2½ cups, bread flour, plus more for dusting. 7 grams, 1 packet, instant yeast. 1 teaspoon salt. 180 milliliters, 3/4 cup, warm water. 1 teaspoon sugar. For the lamination: 225 grams, 2 sticks, cold unsalted butter, European style if available. 200 grams, 1 cup, granulated sugar. Half a teaspoon flaky sea salt. For the top, make the dough, combine flour, yeast, salt, and sugar. Add warm water and mix until a shaggy dough forms. Knead for 8 to 10 minutes until smooth and slightly tacky. Form into a ball, place in a lightly oiled bowl, cover, and let rise 1 hour until doubled. Prepare the butter, place cold butter between 2 sheets of parchment and beat with a rolling pin into a flat square approximately 6 by 6 inches. Keep cold. Laminate, roll the dough into a rectangle approximately 12 by 8 inches. Place the cold butter square in the center. Fold the dough over the butter like an envelope, sealing all edges. Roll gently into a rectangle again. Sprinkle 3/4 of the sugar over the surface. Fold in thirds. Turn 90 degrees, roll out again. Sprinkle remaining sugar. Fold in thirds again. The dough will resist and the sugar will try to escape, this is normal. Shape and bake, preheat oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, 200 degrees Celsius. Butter a 9-inch round cake pan generously. Roll the dough into a rough circle slightly larger than the pan. Drape into the pan, tucking in the edges. Sprinkle the top with flaky sea salt. Let rest 20 minutes. Bake 30 to 35 minutes until deeply golden, almost amber, on top and caramelized at the edges. The sugar will bubble. Watch it in the last 10 minutes. Critical, let it cool in the pan for exactly 10 minutes, then invert onto a wire rack over a baking sheet. If you wait longer, the caramelized sugar will cement itself to the pan. Eat it the same day. Warm is best. The edges should be dark, almost too dark, you will think. They are not. That caramelization is the point.